Hi, this is Mark. Welcome back to my channel, What Burns My Ass. This is a channel where I tell you the things that burn my ass, and you tell me whether or not they burn your ass too. So this video is going to be about the conflict in the Gaza Strip. It's going to be about the Palestinian people, it's going to be about Hamas, and it's going to be about Israel. And we're going to discuss that the thousands of college students that are protesting across the country on the behalf of Hamas, not knowing that that's a terrorist organization and that they believe all non-Muslim citizens in the world should be killed and that Israel should not exist. All Israelis should be killed. All the people in the United States are infidels and they should all be killed. And all the people that are not Muslim, including in Europe and Asia and anywhere else in the world, should all be killed. And yet you are protesting on the behalf of this organization. And I want you to watch this video because you're going to find out what Hamas really stands for. And listen, I completely understand not wanting to see women and children be killed, but I think what a lot of people don't understand is Hamas is putting women and children in locations where Israel warns they're going to bomb so that those women and children can die as martyrs. And if you support an organization that does that, you burn my ass.
10 facts about Hamas. The Hamas terrorist organization controls Gaza and has not been elected into office in 17 years. Hamas is recognized as a terrorist organization by the US, Canada, Australia, the UK, and many other countries.
Hamas is a terrorist organization.
Hamas receives an annual budget of hundreds of millions of dollars, but unfortunately they invested in terrorism rather than in electricity and running water for the people of Gaza. Hamas carried out the worst terrorist attack in Israel's history, killing over 1,300 civilians and injuring thousands. This was the largest massacre of Jewish people since the Holocaust. Hamas is responsible for numerous suicide bombings, shootings, and stabbing attacks, resulting in the murders of thousands of civilians, both Israeli and Palestinian. A large amount of building materials into Gaza from Israel, more than 3.5 million tons of construction material in 2016 alone. However, a significant portion never makes it to the people of Gaza, as Hamas diverts it to building terrorist tunnels, rockets, and other weapons. Hamas leaders embed themselves in civilian areas, using the people of Gaza as human shields, knowing the IDF attempts to minimize civilian casualties. Hamas tortures and systematically oppresses LGBTQ+ individuals, going as far as throwing people off buildings. The majority of Hamas leaders are convicted or wanted murderers. Hamas was created as an extreme offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Okay, so you just watched this clip about 10 things that most people didn't know about Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization. And their plan for the world is to kill all non-Muslims. And if they had their way, Israel would be wiped off the face of the map. America would be wiped off the face of the map, and all non-Muslim people should be killed. That is their charter. That is what they believe. And Hamas, a lot of the people in Hamas were Palestinians and people from other countries in the Middle East, like Iran and Syria, where they are taught to sing Death to America every day, from the time that they start their first day at school to the time they graduate. And this is a terrorist organization you're going to support. And when Israel was providing years of construction materials to construct housing for the Palestinian people, Hamas was using that to construct terrorist tunnels and planning their attacks against Israel like they did on October 7th. It makes no sense. How can you support a group that does something like this? And Queers for Palestine, I mean, that's like, black men for the KKK. Yeah, I want to join up. I mean, that makes about the same amount of sense. If a queer person knocked on the door in the middle of Palestine and said, "Hey, sweetheart, I'm here to join your war against Israel," they would probably shoot him right in their head, right where they stood, as soon as they opened the door. But cares for Palestine. That's the logic that we're living with in this country. And anybody that supports an organization that thinks this way, you people burn my ass.
It's very convenient to blame all of this terrorism on, after 9/11 especially, they blame the terrorism. Oh, it's because we have this terrorism everywhere by Muslims. It's all because of the occupation. If it wasn't for the occupation of Gaza, if it's not for the occupation of the West Bank, we wouldn't have a problem. The problem all is because of Israel. That's what they want to give the impression. And this is a big lie, because I lived in Gaza as a child and I witnessed the terrorism against Israel before the occupation of Gaza and before the occupation of the West Bank. And our media here doesn't even know that. There was terrorism against Israel before the occupation. So people who are Arabs who claim that they are doing terrorism now because they want freedom, democracy. No, there is no freedom and democracy in any Arab country, let alone the West Bank or Gaza. So we have to really call a spade now. This is too serious to just take all these lies and look the other way, because it's very, very hard to know the truth if you rely on Arab media, if you rely on the culture around you. And because of life in an oppressive society, I moved to America. I moved to America in the end of 78, 79, and my life completely changed. And one time I wanted to attend a synagogue and a church because I was curious. I thought they were going to curse the Arabs the same way we cursed them in our mosque, the holiness of the place. They were praying for everybody. They were praying for peace on earth. How can we leave this earth a better place? It was a totally different way of thinking, the opposite of what I grew up with. And that's when I went to a mosque here also in Los Angeles. And I thought that because they allowed women, that it was going to be different here within America. I am so glad that Islam in America must be so different. So I went to the mosque and I heard anti-Semitism again in the mosque. And I was told, don't assimilate in America. We're here to Islamize America. They were looking down at American culture. They were looking down at this society. And I felt very uncomfortable. I said, oh my God, there is an agenda here. And I never went back again. It hit me. How could we do this? How could we lie and accuse people of something we Arabs know very well we have done ourselves? How could this happen? What kind of value system allows a person or allows a culture or a religion to lie and accuse their enemies of something that they know they've done themselves? They know that Osama bin Laden did that. They know that he was financed with Arab money, with oil money until today. How could they accuse the Jewish people of that? Look at the map of the Middle East. You can hardly see Israel. It's impossible to convince any person who has an IQ of a child that this problem is over the land called Israel. It's time for the West to understand this, because it's not just not good for Israel, it's not good for the Arab world. They are collapsing. A lot of people think that the Arab world is so strong and so powerful. It's rotting from the core, but they don't know. The religious leaders are telling them to continue the hate instead of telling them to repent and find the true God, the love and the friendship. In the eyes of many Muslims, in the eyes of Islam itself, Jews and non-Muslims, they call them the kafir, the infidels. They don't deserve the truth, they don't deserve justice, and they don't deserve mercy. How can this happen? And we accept it, and we don't say no. The Arab world will never have freedom and democracy.
So we just watched this woman explain how she was raised in the Gaza Strip. And from the time she was a child to the time she was able to escape, she was taught to hate everybody that wasn't Muslim or was anywhere outside of their country mainly. And you can't fix that type of brainwashing. The Palestinian people were raised that way, so therefore that is why they supported Hamas to run their government, because Hamas believes that the Muslim faith and praising Allah is the most important thing anyone can do in this world. And if you're not Muslim, you're an infidel, you're a cancer on the world, you should be killed. That's what they believe. And you can't fix people like that. It's very, very difficult to change someone's mind if that's all they've ever known. And, for Hamas to do things like, when Israel would send notifications of where they were going to bomb and to get women and children out of the area, Hamas would intentionally put women and children in there to die so they could die as martyrs for Allah. And when food was provided by Israel to help the Palestinian people, they stole that and hid them in the terrorist tunnels to keep them for their soldiers. And therefore, of course, the Palestinians believe that Israel doesn't care about them and is, starving them to death and not allowing them to have fresh water to drink or to bathe in. It's all Israel. Israel is just killing them indiscriminately, does not care about them at all as people. That's not true. But that is what Hamas wants people to believe. And if you keep supporting a terrorist organization like that, and if you don't see what's wrong with an organization like that, people like you burn my ass.
Some universities continue to see protests over the Israel-Hamas war. In New York, pro-Palestinian protesters have been demonstrating at Barnard College a day after police broke up a sit-in because of a bomb threat. Police cuffed 10 people who refused orders. Barnard College said one of their employees was hurt during that sit-in.
We please need all occupants of the building to evacuate the building using the staircases.
All right, let's take you back to Wednesday's protest. Video from inside Barnard College Library shows us the moments everyone inside the building had to evacuate.
If you continue to use the bullhorn and an officer's ear, you will be arrested for OTA.
And this was a scene outside that building as NYPD officers pushed protesters out of that area. In the end, authorities didn't find any explosives and cleared the scene. Now, amid that demonstration, a nearby pro-Israel protest questioned why school officials aren't acting harsher to students attending the pro-Palestinian protest. Right now, it's not clear if those arrested will be disciplined. All right, we're going to stay in New York for a moment. Students at Columbia University, which, by the way, is affiliated with Barnard College, now under investigation by a disciplinary committee over criticism of Israel. Dozens of students said they received notices for a range of activities from social media to joining what officials call unauthorized protests. Free speech advocates are raising the alarms. They say the school is bowing to Trump's threat to pull federal funding from schools that allow these types of protests. All right, jumping the map now to California. Nearly a year ago, you remember, protesters created encampments on the University of California campuses to demand the UC system divest from doing business with Israel. And for weeks, daily life was interrupted, and Jewish students reported feeling afraid at school. Now, President Trump's Department of Justice is investigating the UC system over allegations of anti-Semitism against employees. CBS News Bay Area reporter Veronica Macias is live at UC Berkeley to break that investigation down for us. Welcome, Veronica. What is the Trump administration doing at Berkeley today?
Well, we know that representatives with the task force are expected to arrive here at UC Berkeley. The question, though, is when, Liz? And we know that students that we've talked to say, how can they forget about those demonstrations? They were large scale. And for the most part, 2023, 2024 brought peaceful demonstrations and protests here at UC Berkeley. There was one incident, though, in February of 2024 that comes into question, at least here at UC Berkeley, where a Jewish speaker was disrupted. Students there saw shattered glass. There was a broken window, and Jewish students at the event had to be evacuated. So the task force here could be zeroing in on this one incident, but the DOJ, the task force, they're going to be looking at a timeline of things. They're looking for a pattern of discrimination in this investigation. And so far, the university has come out saying that they have a response that is going to be comprehensive, looking at all allegations and incidents that were reported to the university. And also we know that, like you mentioned, free speech groups questioning here what's going to be investigating and saying that the elimination of any funding here is of concern to them. Remember, UC Berkeley, home to civil rights free speech movement. But overall, the bottom line here from administrators is that they have an unwavering support for the Jewish community, and total some 2,500 undergraduate students here at UC Berkeley, Liz.
Yeah, as you said, Veronica, you have to remember that Berkeley was the home for the free speech movement among protesters. We saw that in the 60s for sure. That's what Berkeley is really known for. I'm curious, have you spoken to professors or other people there in charge? How are they reacting to all of this?
Well, students themselves sort of reacting now to the news, saying that they remember seeing the demonstrations happening. I talked to one student. He doesn't really know much about the investigation, but he definitely knows that there was a mix of emotions, at least within students. Take a listen.
I know me personally, I have a lot of Jewish friends who have gone by Free Palestine protests and have felt kind of a weird mix of emotions, because they both want to be supportive of said movements, but also make sure that they're protecting themselves and making sure that they're staying safe. So I know that there's a lot of inner conflict there.
Now, leaders here at the university say they, again, don't know when representatives of the task force with the DOJ are going to be arriving, but they are prepared, and they're also prepared, they're saying, and telling students that they know that they have the right steps in place here when incidents and accusations, allegations of anti-Semitism occur here on campus, Liz.
CBS News Bay Area's Veronica Macias, thank you so much for that report.
So I don't want to make a long comment on this one, other than I don't understand how people can protest on the behalf of Hamas. I understand protesting against the war. I understand not wanting women and children to be killed. I am completely with you on that. And I am definitely almost 101% for freedom of speech, even if it's wrong. But if you're here on a visa and you're protesting on the behalf of a terrorist organization like Hamas, I think you should be deported. Because if you watch, that woman talked about how she went to a mosque here in LA thinking that they would be different because they're in America. But what they're trying to do is undermine us from within, and we're allowing it to happen. And then people are mad when Donald Trump doesn't want these people in our country and saying that that's racist or that's xenophobic. But you're allowing people into our country that want us dead. That I don't find that to be a dumb idea. Actually, if you're smart, you should think the same way, no matter how I feel about freedom of speech. But if you continue to support a terrorist organization that would put women and children in bombing areas, that would fly over a fence and kill 1,200 people and rape women and children and behead babies, you people burn my ass.
So I'm signing this, and I'm unhappy to do it, but I really have not so much choice, because we have to be strong and firm, and I hope that it's not going to have to be used in any great measure at all. It'd be great if we could have a Middle East and maybe a world at total peace. We don't want to be tough on Iran. We don't want to be tough on anybody, but they just can't have a nuclear weapon.
Mr. President, are you going to engage in conversations with your counterpart in Iran?
I would.
And why say that you're unhappy to sign it if it's Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani?
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do. Not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. And they shouldn't be able to do it. And Biden should have said that, but he never did. I don't know why. Lack of intelligence, perhaps. But he never said it.
Mr. President, when you said if they do it, they get obliterated. Just to be clear, you're talking about if Iran made an attempt on your life.
Yeah, that would be called total obliteration.
So, this is what Donald Trump put out in the media recently, as a message to Iran. Because I don't think a lot of people realize Iran, during Donald Trump's first term, was on the border of collapse because of the sanctions that he put on Iran. And unfortunately, the people were starving, which I feel bad for the Iranian people, but they were starting to protest, and the country was on border of collapse. And then here comes in Joe Biden, who gives Iran $6 billion, which they put in to fund the attack on Israel. They gave the money to Hamas to fund that attack. So that is why Donald Trump is wording this clip the way he did, this interview the way he did. He worded it that way because terrorist organizations usually only respond to strength. And if he made it any weaker, his message any weaker than that, they might just laugh it off. Similarly to the way that they did when Joe Biden was president. They did not respect him. So, I don't necessarily like the way Donald Trump words everything, but sometimes when it's successful and it accomplishes its goal, sometimes you just have to learn to go, hey, it's probably a little bit necessary. Anyways, that's my video for today. I want to thank you for watching as always. And I would like you again to reach down and hit that like and subscribe. Do not forget, do it right now. And as always, what burns my ass probably burns your ass too. And thanks for watching.